Hello, everybody. This is March week 3, and here's the OSS team with a demo starting off with Nate showing some session state tests. I don't know if Nate's talking, but I can't.
Still muted, Nate. Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I had the wrong window active when I hit Command D.
Okay.
So this week I worked on the session state tests. I'm focusing mostly on unit tests. You can see I have 58 tests, but actually there's about 15-ish. Oh, this is not the right file. 15 to 20 of them are still stubbed out. And I ran with coverage as well, which is kind of exciting, and have currently an 87% coverage.
All right. Very cool. So that's work on the session state test there. Next up, we have Colin with some of his works on the JSAPI wiring up.
So this is for the screen sharing to come up. There we go. This is seeming like a very small change from last week, from the last presentation I did. The interesting part here is that we're now able to get the schema, which is not using protobufs, it's using flat buffers. So now when we get the timetable that we had created previously, we get it to log all the columns that are created and, more importantly, the types. Arrow and Flight encode types as just an enum of the very small handful of types that they support. But we want to be able to say, yes, I know I sent you a 64-bit int, but I want you to interpret it as a date. And this, we have to provide some metadata to indicate how to interpret that on the client. So this, along with a whole bunch of other table attributes and some column attributes, which are not really what we call them, but things like description or is this a roll-up column, things like that, is this a format column, are all now being passed to the client. The JSAPI will now interpret those properly, and then we'll be able to pass them off to the UI.
All right, perfect. So we're looking forward to hooking that up to the UI soon in the next coming weeks. All right, next up we have Devin showing some of the Docker and CI changes he's been working on.
Great. I've gone ahead and parameterized the Docker Compose file that we have, so you can give it a different Compose project name, choose your tag and port if you want to spin up multiple instances in your Docker environment. Right now we have some console improvements that we're running here. I've pre-set up a slightly different environment here, got some containers running, and we'll go ahead and look at some console improvements that I made for some Groovy scripting on the command line. So first ahead, we're going to go ahead and just tail these logs right here. And then we're going to connect with a Groovy console session. And we can go ahead and do some normal Groovy. We can print 1 + 2. Stuff like that. Oops, print line. It looks like it's, I don't know. Oh, it's printing both of them at the same time because I didn't do a print line earlier. So we'll just do that one more time. We can go ahead and get some tables. So we'll go ahead and look at a timetable here. When you construct a table, it gives you a little bit of debugging information back. We can go ahead and show this table. It's basically going to print it to standard out. And again, this is a remote client, so you can see that the stuff is being printed out on the server too and here on the client. Errors are handled nicely. Now that's one of the improvements I made. So if you type something bad, it'll say, no such property. And those are the improvements.
All right, very cool. So that'll be very good for us to be able to test our changes and also to be able to demonstrate, share our changes with other users or other developers. All right, so now I'm going to show some changes I've been making on the website. So I've been working on splitting apart the web into different packages. So before we had one giant package that had our app and all of our components in one package. Now it's split up, and the first package I've split out is the grid and icons. So those are now built as separate packages. But if I'm in the high-level client UI directory, I can still just run npm install and npm run build as normal, and it'll install and build these packages separately. And the other cool thing is that if I run npm start, it starts up a development server like it did before, and starts building each component individually as well. So you can see here, it's starting up my grid with a Webpack watch. So it's building grid. See, it successfully completed it. And it's still starting up my app server that uses the grid. But once that comes up, then any changes I make to grid will actually rebuild grid and rebuild the app as well. So if I make a change to grid right now, so my app is now up and running as well. So I can see that right here. Okay, and then if I pull up a table in the app, so I've got this table open, and this has everything printed in red because I made a change for that right here. And if I remove that line and then save it again, you'll see that the grid will actually rebuild. See, the grid is rebuilt, and then my app rebuilt as well. Hot reloading doesn't quite work completely yet, but if I reopen that table, it now looks right. And that's everything for the OSS team this week. So we'll see you next week. Bye.